Tonight, paramedics under pressure. We join crews on the front line as they deal with a spike in mental health-related call-outs and long waits at A&E.
So if we're stuck here, then obviously we can't go to calls, so more and more ambulances get stuck, more and more calls come in that we can't respond to.
Also making the headlines, the First Minister condemns unacceptable violence before yesterday's League Cup final. Shoppers took cover as fans clashed in the streets and police invoked special powers to target troublemakers. 10 years on, the first lesbian couple to have a wedding ceremony in Scotland say there's still a long way to go until full acceptance. And in sport, Celtic celebrate lifting the League Cup after a dramatic 120 minutes at Hampden. I'm Kellyanne Woodland. This is the STV News at 6. Good evening. Paramedics on the front line have told STV News they're simply papering over the cracks when it comes to dealing with a spike in mental health incidents, which they say they don't receive specialist training for. They also told us what used to be seen as winter pressures are now felt all year round. Well, our political reporter Laura Alderman spent an evening on shift with paramedics in Edinburgh on one of their busiest nights of the year.
Paramedic Kyle and technician Stevie are barely half an hour into their night shift in Edinburgh when the first job comes in. An 86-year-old woman has fallen at home and can't get up. Within 15 minutes, they're on the scene. Elizabeth is stuck behind the door and in a lot of pain.
Lovely Kyle here. He can give you some pain relief.
The team try to make her as comfortable as possible and reassure her family while they assess the situation.
So we think she's effectively fractured her hip, we think is what she's done. So we were trying to give her some pain relief, and then her blood pressure took a bit of a dive and she felt a bit unwell, so we thought it was maybe going to get a bit more chaotic, but she's kind of recovered a little bit. So we're going to go and get a chair and then get her onto that and then get her into the vehicle and kind of reassess again from there.
Where possible, paramedics try to ease pressure on emergency departments by treating patients on the scene or in their own home. But often, like on this occasion, a transfer to A&E is still necessary.
Good job, well done.
As Elizabeth is moved into the ambulance, her family are thankful.
They've been super, really, really very professional and very caring, and actually, you know, my auntie's very proud, so they've really thought about her dignity as well, so yeah, really. Yeah, very good, terrific.
While Elizabeth makes her way to A&E,
is he responding normally?
The calls continue to roll in at the ambulance control centre in South Queensferry.
It's been extremely busy. The demand's quite high for ambulances, and some of the calls that we're getting are needing more further triage from the clinicians, so a lot of the calls are getting passed through to the clinicians.
More than 2,000 calls to 999 are received here every day, but around half of them do not require an ambulance.
Realistically, if you phone 999, you will always receive an answer. But we do know we have to prioritise our most immediate life-threatening calls. So if you're having a heart attack, a stroke, or you're critically unwell, we'll always prioritise that call. Now, the sad thing of that, it means that those people who are less unwell, they're not immediately facing a life-threatening condition, will have to wait longer.
When Kyle and Stevie arrive at A&E, there's not too many more ambulances stacked up outside, and it's good news for Elizabeth.
And she'll be around about 10 minutes, and then we will go in and get you further assessment.
Right.
All right?
30 minutes after she arrived at A&E, Elizabeth is admitted. But for paramedics, the wait to hand patients over can be frustrating, tying them up for hours on end.
The last 2 years it's changed massively. So we always kind of heard stories from down south and things when it was 8-hour waits and things, and we always thought that'll never happen here, and now it's becoming a reality really. So if we're stuck here, then obviously we can't go to calls, so more and more ambulances get stuck. More and more calls come in that we can't respond to. Then there's also the patients being uncomfortable. Personal opinion, it's like this all the time. We hate going to jobs where people have been lying for hours or waiting for hours, and usually they get more and more unwell as it goes on. it frustrates us as well. And we also feel the effect of that as staff.
Another change Kyle has noticed since the pandemic is the sheer volume of mental health related call-outs.
I mean, the training we receive in mental health is nothing really. We get made aware of it, we don't get specialist training or anything, so I think sometimes people think we are trained in certain things. We're not. We get kind of awareness of it and understanding of things, but we're not trained in how to deal with it. We kind of just pick it up as we go. We're kind of papering over the cracks a lot of the time and just doing what we can. When you think about the pressures that we have been under, it's not necessarily a miracle, but it's impressive that it's still functioning to some degree.
Recent investment in different referral pathways for patients, like out-of-hours GPs, has given the crew confidence and eased some immediate pressures.
One thing I've noticed with this job, obviously I've been in such a short time, is there's a lot of alternative pathways that we can use. Obviously we try and use them to our best our advantage, and obviously best for the patient as well, because obviously the outcome is obviously the best care for them. And it can be challenging, but we do our best.
With one job now complete, the crew gets ready to respond to the next call and whatever challenges it might bring. Laura Alderman, STV News, Edinburgh.
Completely unacceptable. The First Minister's condemnation of the clashes between Rangers and Celtic fans in Glasgow city centre ahead of yesterday's League Cup final. John Swinney is also calling on clubs to do more to prevent it happening again. Meanwhile, the leader of the City Council branded those involved as thugs who leave us to live with the fallout. Ollie Dickinson has more.
God, get in.
Shoppers scream and staff rush to close the doors as football fans run riot on the streets of Glasgow. Rangers and Celtic supporters clashed in the city centre, the violence and aggression condemned by the First Minister.
The individuals responsible have got to be held to account by the actions of the police, but the clubs have also got a role to perform to make sure that any fans who have behaved in a disorderly fashion are held to account by the clubs, because this behaviour is in no way, shape or form ever acceptable on the streets of Scotland.
Across an hour, Glasgow's Argyle Street and others nearby became a running battle. Police say missiles were thrown and windows smashed, with one officer being injured. In this pub, packed with Celtic fans, a lit flare was thrown through the door.
Disgusting, basically. There's no need for it at all in this day and age. It's like people that come out to cause that kind of disruption. They shouldn't be allowed in the city centre, let alone at football matches.
They're not even football fans, they're just louts that are just out just to cause trouble, using football as an excuse, really. It's terrible.
Not much you can do. It's a rivalry that's full of hate, so obviously hopefully it gets better, but again, I don't see it happening.
Eventually, both sets of fans were kettled and led away from the area. Police Scotland say their inquiries are ongoing to identify those who were involved and take appropriate action against them. They say the use of weapons and violence will not be tolerated. However, once inside the stadium, pyrotechnics once again delayed kick-off. Fans of both clubs were warned their use was illegal and that anyone doing so would face criminal charges and football banning orders. The SPFL says the displays were completely unacceptable and they'll work with Police Scotland to investigate. Both Rangers and Celtic haven't responded to STV's request for a comment. The City Council's leader says the football industry is happy to make money off what she calls thugs, and it's not good enough. People across Glasgow will be hoping it won't be the same old story when the old firm next meet in the new year. Ollie Dickinson, STV News.
10 years ago today, same-sex marriage was made legal in Scotland. Susan and Jerry were the first lesbian couple to have a wedding ceremony here. And while they're proud of how far society has come since then, they say there's still a long way to go until there's full acceptance of the LGBTQ community. Amy Flett has this report.
I, Susan, accept you, Geraldine, in marriage.
I, Geraldine, accept you, Susan, in marriage, always.
Reflecting on the vows from their wedding day, Susan and Jerry had been together for almost 20 years before they could legally be married.
We had a secret ceremony in '97 when we were frightened to lose our children. And then in 2006 we did civil partnership, but we never felt that was full equality.
I think the fact that we could stand and say to the world, our love is equal to everyone else's love, and that we could spread a message of equality, that's what felt different for us.
On the 16th of December 2014, the Marriage and Civil Partnership Act came into effect in Scotland, meaning same-sex couples in a civil partnership could convert to marriage. Wedding ceremonies could take place from the 31st of December that same year, which is when Susan and Jerry chose to officially tie the knot. But the change didn't come without a challenge.
We shouldn't forget that, you know, the Scotland that now takes equal marriage for granted is the same country that within my lifetime, our lifetimes, still criminalised male gay relationships. So the journey was quite a big one, and the moment that we arrived at 10 years ago was a special one.
In the last decade, there have been over 10,000 same-sex marriages in Scotland, many of which have been conducted by Susan and Jerry, who are both celebrants. But they believe there's still a way to go until there's full acceptance.
I think same-sex couples come to us and just take it for granted. But it's not like that for gender fluid people or transgender people. They still have the fear, quite rightly, because society's down on them a lot. They might have legal protection, but societal acceptance is still not there.
At the end of this month, the couple will celebrate their 10-year wedding anniversary. While it's a huge milestone for them and for Scotland, they say they'll continue to fight for full equality. Amy Flett, STV News.
OK, well, we heard from Nicola Sturgeon there in Amy's report, and the former First Minister sat down with our political editor Colin Mackay for a wide-ranging interview. What else did you chat about, Colin?
Well, clearly we started off talking about gay marriage. It's clearly legislation that she is very, very proud of. She actually said that it was quite a civilised debate because that's in stark contrast to what came afterwards with gender recognition reform legislation, which was ultimately blocked by Westminster. She describes that as horrible. She says that it was the most toxic debate that she's ever been involved in. She also talks about her book, which is due out next year. She's putting the finishing touches to that just now. Then there's the ongoing Operation Branch Form, police investigation into SNP finances. Is there likely to be a bit in about that talks about the problems the party's had since you left, things like branch form?
You're going to have to read my book to find out what's
Is it going to come right up to date with that?
You're going to have to read the book.
Are we any closer to getting a conclusion to that, do you think?
I have no idea.
Well, you'd like it to be pretty soon, wouldn't you?
I'm not going to comment on that.
But you want it out of the way, surely.
It's not within my control, so...
But I mean, you've said so often that it's been uncomfortable and a really difficult time. You must just want rid of it.
Of course, but it's not within my control, and I can't comment on it.
Now, on that, her husband, former SNP Chief Executive Peter Murrell, was charged with embezzlement in April. A year and a half ago, Nicola Sturgeon herself was arrested, questioned by the police and released without charge. She maintains she has done nothing wrong. But this whole thing is far from over. After 3 years of police investigations, Operation Branch Form remains a huge cloud hanging over her and over the SNP. And you can see the whole interview with Nicola Sturgeon on Scotland Tonight at 10:50.
All right, we'll be watching. Thanks very much for that, Colin. A former soldier who stabbed a man to death at the door of his home has been jailed for life. Stephen McGee had earlier denied murdering Kevin Doyle in Wishaw in October 2022 by repeatedly striking him to the head with a screwdriver. But the attack was caught on CCTV. The 48-year-old was ordered to serve at least 21 years in prison. A senior member of an organised crime group who ran an amphetamine lab in Motherwell and trafficked drugs has been sentenced to 13 years in prison. Colin Wright, the head of the gang's Scottish arm, was arrested by Spanish police in March at the request of the National Crime Agency. The 38-year-old was extradited to the UK in October. Wright pled guilty to 5 drugs charges at Liverpool Crown Court last month. Now, a Glasgow charity is helping children facing poverty celebrate the magic of Christmas by delivering gifts across the city. Spirit of Christmas started in a car park 10 years ago and has grown to help more than 120,000 local kids with a gift bag full of presents. Vanessa Taff went along to find out how they're putting smiles on faces this year.
Don't be fooled, this isn't Santa's grotto. but it's not far off. All of the toys, from naught to teenage years, are destined for local children.
Having received all the wonderful donations that we get from Just Giving, we convert all that money into all of these toys. And the best bit has to be when we see them all picked and packed and actually going out the door to our charity partners. So everyone that joins Glasgow Spirit of Christmas knows exactly where their gifts are going and to which organisation who will be distributing them.
The campaign, which is in its 10th year, wants to make sure no child goes without a present at Christmas. More than 30% of children live in poverty, and the demand for help is soaring.
No child should go without, not a gift. And some are going without even a hot meal. So whatever we can do as a community, that means the world to us. And we know it means the world to the families who receive these wonderful donations from our community members and donors.
More than 860 charities will receive the presents and deliver them to families in need. This is just one of them.
Just put it here, we'll get it sorted for the kids.
They work with children who have cancer or a life-threatening illness.
A lot of their kids will be in hospital over Christmas, so they will not get spending it with their siblings and their families. So we take these gifts in, and on Christmas Day they'll open them in the hospital, so they've got like a big gift. It's just they're going through such a hard time, and TB presents, it just means the world to them. And you see their mum and dad's face as well. It's such a magical time.
And that magic is what keeps the spirit of Christmas going. Vanessa Taff, STV News in Glasgow.
Well, it is a time of giving after all. Now, yesterday, what a game that was, Rahman.
Cracker, wasn't it, Kellyanne? One for the ages. Celtic against Rangers in the League Cup final yesterday. 6 goals. The two teams couldn't be separated. Went to spot kicks. As always, when these two collide, there's always a fallout. Rangers felt they should have had a penalty, and we've got news on that tonight.
STV Sport, sponsored by C.R. Smith this Christmas.
Good evening. STV Sport understands Rangers Chief Executive Patrick Stewart has spoken with the SFA seeking an explanation as to why they weren't awarded a penalty during the League Cup final against Celtic yesterday. After 120 minutes of play, the two sides, as I say, couldn't be separated, with Celtic winning on penalties. Brendan Rodgers praised his team's desire and the quality of their spot kicks as they edged out their rivals.
After 120 minutes of this pulsating contest and 9 penalty kicks in the shootout, it all came down to this.
It's Maeda! He scores! It's Celtic's moment!
The guy showed a big heart to come back from being behind in the game, and then to obviously show that composure in the penalties. And the most important thing is being at the podium at the end.
Football can be amazing, great and amazing fun. It can be very cruel. This was a really cruel one. I think my team deserved more today, creating more chances than the opponent.
It was the holders who struck first just before half-time.
Igman, Carter Vickers coming across. Igman is going to drop for Bayrami!
Early in the second half, Rangers had a 4 versus 1 attack, but Hamza Igaman chose the wrong option. Then came the Celtic fight back. Greg Taylor, at fault for Rangers' opener, equalised courtesy of Nikola Raskin's deflection. Less than 5 minutes later, Dyson Maeda pounced on Raskin's poor header.
As Maeda's in front of Balogun, Dyson Maeda, can he finish? You bet he can! What a turnaround!
Could Rangers respond? They sure could.
Diomande looking to get turned, gets the shot away!
This time, a deflection came to their aid. 2-2 with 15 minutes remaining. In the 87th minute, Nicholas Kuhn and Arne Engels combined, with Kuhn scoring what many thought was surely the winner. But no, the lead lasted just over a minute.
It's Danilo off the bench!
Into extra time, Liam Scales tugged Václav Černý. Free kick the decision. The Rangers manager incensed they weren't awarded a penalty.
My phone is overloaded with the penalty situation with Černý. Why there's no communication in that moment about a big decision like that? Because it's clear for everybody it's a game decisive decision.
The teams couldn't be separated after extra time. At 3-3 in the penalty shootout, Ridvan Yilmaz's spot kick was saved by Kasper Schmeichel. Maeda scored and Celtic celebrated as the League Cup returned to Glasgow's East End. And the statistics make for great reading for Celtic fans. Callum McGregor has won every cup final he's played in, including league triumphs. He's won 23 trophies at the club. Over 2 spells at Celtic, Brendan Rodgers has yet to lose a final. He's won 10 trophies. And Rodgers has now lost only 1 game out of 20 against Rangers.
I know the magnitude of this game. Celtic and Rangers worldwide for both sets of supporters, and it means so much to people's lives. So I come into every game. I think it's maybe my 20th game, but I always treat it like the first.
Well, more on yesterday's final, and Celtic captain Callum McGregor says he backed goalkeeper Kasper Schmeichel to save a penalty in the shootout, while James Tavernier admits the defeat on penalty kicks felt similar to the heartbreak Rangers suffered in the Europa League final in 2022.
He's a top goalkeeper. He's shown that since he's come in. Since the first day he trained with us, he's been fantastic, and again another big moment. We kind of fancied him to save one, if I'm honest, which is maybe doing him a bit of disservice because that's how good he is. But he's been a massive player since he's come in, made some big saves, and none more so than that today.
It brings obviously flashbacks from the Seville final when you lose on a penalty shootout when the game's so close. But you know, these games are obviously decided on small margins, and you know, I'm obviously proud of all the boys who were able to step up and take a penalty. And it's one of those where it's a flip of a coin. You either win one on the penalty shootout or you don't.
This is the one we sort of missed last season, and we got the other two, so you know, it sets us up nicely. We're still focused on a game at a time, but I think this was massive for us to get this one out of the way, and we're happy to have done that.
I think that performance today showed that we have the quality to compete and to beat them. We certainly have the desire and the energy to go in quick succession like we've done this week. So for us, it feels like a matter of time.
Neil Critchley says he was stunned and shocked and told his Hearts side they can never perform as badly again after defeat to 10-man Kilmarnock saw them slump to the bottom of the league. Well, there was plenty of drama in the 4 Premiership games at the weekend. Jamie Borthwick's roundup begins at Rugby Park.
Frustration on and off the field as Hearts find themselves mired in a relegation battle. Neil Critchley didn't hold back from criticising his players as Kilmarnock, playing with 10 men for more than 90 minutes following a red card for Robbie Dees, picked up 3 points at Rugby Park. Bruce Anderson converted a first-half penalty, with a delighted Derek McInnes hailing it as no more than Killie deserved. Hibs had to come from behind to move above their capital rivals, Dwight Gale cancelling out Elijah Campbell's opener just before half-time. David Gray's side eventually won out 3-1 at Easter Road despite a missed penalty, as Ellie Yuan and Josh Campbell sealed the victory. Another Premiership comeback saw St Mirren break into the top 6. Trailing away to St Johnstone, Stephen Robinson's men were sparked into action by 17-year-old Evan Mooney's volley. A late Mark O'Hara penalty was saved but ordered to be retaken, and Roland Idowu netted a 99th minute winner. And a breathless encounter at Fir Park ended in a 4-3 victory for Motherwell over Dundee United. There were early strikes from Apostolos Stamatolopoulos, Sam Dalby and Andy Halliday, but Tom Sparrow's clever finish was the pick of the 7 goals as Motherwell moved to 4th in the table. Well sit 7 points behind Rangers, who have a game in hand as the top-tier table takes shape ahead of the busy festive period of fixtures. Jamie Borthwick, STV Sport.
Finally, rugby, and Franco Smith was pleased with Glasgow Warriors' fighting spirit as they earned 2 bonus points in their defeat away to Toulon in the Champions Cup yesterday. Johnny Matthews' late try in the 30-29 loss means Warriors have 7 points from their opening 2 pool games. Meanwhile, Sean Everett says Darcy Graham was incredible as Edinburgh cruised to a 52-12 win over Bayonne in the Challenge Cup. Graham scored 2 tries and assisted 2 more in the victory.
STV Sport, sponsored by CR Smith this Christmas.
And that's your sport tonight. See you again tomorrow. Kellyanne.
All right, Ratman, thanks very much. OK, let's see what's happening with the weather now with Sean.
A breezy morning will be followed up with a flurry of fresh delights for lunch. TUI sponsors STV weather.
Very good evening to you. We've been on this temperature roller coaster since the start of November, where we've got very mild weather, then it turns very cold, then it goes very mild once again, and that trend continues. Very mild just now, then we see a dip in our temperatures. Thursday, Friday turning a little bit chillier, and then turning much milder once again at the weekend. And most of the computer models at the moment into next week, indicating milder conditions, of course, for Christmas. But long way off, meteorologically speaking, still, so things may change, but the trend is at the moment to turn milder, but some windy weather again around this weekend. Temperatures about 9 or 10 degrees Celsius overnight. Another mild one to come. 10 is 50 degrees in Fahrenheit. We'll still hang on to some showery outbreaks of rain. If you've got plans tomorrow, it is going to be a blustery old day, especially later on in the afternoon into the evening. The wind's picking up, gales developing around the west coast and the islands, and lots of rain coming in through the day as well. So it's going to be very wet out there, especially later on tomorrow afternoon. Top temperatures still 11 or 12 degrees into mid-50s in Fahrenheit. It stays pretty mild on Wednesday, but we'll have a blustery wind, and that'll drive showers in across the Hebrides, parts of Ayrshire as well. But for most of us, a lot of dry weather, good spells of sunshine if you've got plans for Thursday. After a bit of a frosty start to the day, temperatures only rising up to 5 degrees, so chillier later on the week before the milder air returns with windy weather again at the weekend. Bye-bye.
TUI sponsors STV weather.
Now, before we go, how about this for a little superstar? Charlotte Bradley has become a viral hit after showcasing her Highland dancing skills on Glasgow's Buchanan Street. She got into the festive spirit, teaming up with a busking bagpiper to entertain shoppers, taking a break from a hectic day of Christmas shopping. It's like she just couldn't resist when she heard the pipes. Just lovely. Well, that's it from us. Colin will have Scotland tonight at 10:50, but from all of us here, bye for now.